Right, first off, can you hear me? Somebody say something, because I was having problems with audio last week. Can you hear me? Yay! Right, okay, let's make it so you can see me possibly. Okay, shall we press that? Yeah! Well, I can see me, that's the main thing. How are we doing, folks? All good? We are going to get busy on some Deathwing this evening. Having just looked at my list for boarding action for my Deathwing, I've just realised it's illegal, so I'm going to have to rethink that slightly and possibly get another box of Deathwing Terminators. But yeah. Anyway, we'll get cracking with that. This is the stuff you need, Chris. Amazing stuff. Find yourself some of this. It'll sort those hands out. Right. Okay, right. Let's get cracking, shall we? Ooh. Let me in. Let me in. Right. Tools of the trade. Okay, don't need that anymore. Don't need that. Don't need. Wait. Probably do need that. Okay. Don't need those though, because I have. I'm only going to be doing the one today because, well, I don't want to get stung with building anything else that's illegal for the boarding action stuff. So I'm going to build the one thing that I know I can have in my squad, and that is the autocan chap. Because everyone loves an autocannon, right? Okay, so we've got my command squad, and you've probably seen that. I'll just fish them out again. I'll show you guys. Oops. Dropping miniatures everywhere. You go back there. Right, so here's my command squad. And what I have found out is, here's my HQ choice. So he's cool, he's an HQ choice. This is my 2-person command squad. That's an elite choice. Oh, actually, I might be alright. Stand by your beds. Are we alright? Because helpfully, Deathwing Champion. Champion's an elite. Command squad's an... that's it. Yes, because the Deathwing Command Terminator is a elite as well. So I've ended up with 4 elites, which is never good if you're trying to build a list that has a maximum of 3 elites in it. So that's the problem. I will probably solve that by leaving one of these guys out, possibly this guy. So no apothecary, 1 champion, 2 command squads, and a strike captain. Cool. So that'll be 9 miniatures. Oh, that was an easy solve, wasn't it? Painting and unboxing, yes. Iron all-weather war strong. I've never heard of that one. I'm gonna have to go looking for that. Right. Okay. So now the thing is, do I really want an autocannon, assault cannon, or because Deathwing are a little bit good with plasma weapons. Do I want a heavy plasma? Answers on a postcard. So we'll look at the stats. Let's put my glasses on so I can look at the stats. Alright. What have we got? Number 1 is heavy 6, strength 6, AP -1, 1 damage. And 4 is heavy D3. Heavy D3, really? Strength 7, AP -3, 1 damage. But only the 1 damage profile, which is weird. Because unless you just can't overcharge it. I don't know. Maybe these are simplified rules. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, so I think I'll probably go with the assault cannon. Because whilst the plasma gun is good and thematic for the Dark Angels, I can't find it on the sprue, so you can't have that. Oh, there it is. Right. I'm thinking the assault cannon is probably going to be mildly more useful in a boarding action, because whilst the heavy plasma can melt one guy. Or maybe up to D3 guys, I suppose. Huh. Okay, I'm sold. Plasma gun it is. Right, let's have a look and see which medal we're building. All the medal. Right. Oh yes, these are all interchangeable, aren't they? That's good. Right. Okay, so what do we want? We want probably, let's take a pair of legs. Pair of legs. Do I want that pair of legs? Do I want that pair of legs? That's a cool pair of legs, I like that. It's kind of posy too. Yeah, let's go with that pair of legs. Ooh, right. Okay. When cutting out your miniatures, acquire yourself a sharp pair of snips. I have a sharp pair of snips, which are these. I also have somewhere actually that's irrelevant. I have a pair of the old Games Workshop metal snips, which whilst being very sturdy, aren't particularly sharp or slender, so I don't like them, and you can't get them anymore, so I can't really recommend them. But these, I got 3 of these off Amazon for I think £5, and they're perfectly adequate. They've got a nice get right up next to the sprues with that. The flat back's crucial. Yeah, you can get right into the little nooks and crannies of the sprues to get your bits out with them. Very good. I don't know whether that's a brand or whether it's a generic Chinese almost brand. Right, so pick, when you're cutting things off the sprue, go for the most fragile bit first, but with these legs that's not going to be an issue, so we're just going to go in there and flat up against the model, just use your leverage, use the tip, snip, and again use the leverage near the tip, snip, and again snip. I'm going to take 2 here because otherwise we're just going to end up with a nub, maybe 3, there we go, pair of legs. we need a body of some kind. I ain't got no body. Okay, so we're not going to use number 7 there because that's the sergeant. Actually, let's have a look at the sergeant, because I think his legs are predefined. Yes, I've cut the sergeant's legs off. So I'll put those legs away, choose a different pair of legs. Have those legs. There we go. That's about a pair of legs. We'll cut this off as well because I'm going to slender one first. About that one. Okay. Where's the extra bit of plasma gun? There we are. There's another bit of plasma gun. I'll have that. Always hold the piece you're cutting off as well, otherwise pinging happens. It'll ping off into the void and you will never see it again. And if, like me, it could possibly is an old data sheet, I don't know. If, like me, you have a mottled grey carpet, you will never, ever find it again. It's remarkable how many people up and down the country have mottled grey carpets in their hobby room and thought this was a good idea at the time. Okay, so we're on to, let's pick a chest. See my chest. Those all the same. What's on his? We're using that one, aren't we? Okay, so he's got a, looks like a Crux Terminatus on his belt buckle, so we'll echo that on his chest. There's the Crux Terminatus. So we'll have that. Snip. 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 He needs a back. So you've noticed, because I'm painting Dark Angels, I'm playing rock music because, yeah. Right. Gotta get ahead. Gotta get ahead. Where are the heads? Stand over there. Think about what you've done. Did I just miss the heads completely? Why did nobody say? Well, that's a medic head. I don't know. Right. He's got a skull on his forehead, which usually means sergeant. He's got a skull on his forehead, which usually means sergeant. He's got a bionic eye, which usually reinforces the whole sergeant thing, because only sergeants have bionic eyes, apparently. Where else should we go? Oh, let's go with that one. It's got kind of a winged skull on his forehead. Now, I have an option to use a bear head, but I'm not going to do that. As terrifying as a bear in power armor would be. Because I figure if you're going into an unknown atmosphere, in an unknown space hulk, not putting your helmet on is peak stupid. because you don't know when you are suddenly going to run out of oxygen. And just taking your helmet off for a rule of cool is just no. Right, okay. So I need one of them. I'm going to go with that one, I think. Yeah, let's pop that one off. They're not Space Wolves, this is absolutely correct. They have a modicum of more discipline than Space Wolves. And slightly more corruption. Oh, I mean, what? No corruption here. Oh, I was going with the plasma, wasn't I? Right, okay. What else do I need on him? I've got a shoulder pad. That's not the same size as a shoulder pad, is it? No, okay. So I need one of the other shoulder pads. Those are the ones for the Deathwing Knights. So I won't be using one of them, although I could. Use that one. Pop that off. Now this gets interesting because I've ditched the apothecary from my squad. I've got spare points to include the exact sort of weapon you kind of need if you are pushing into a space hulk and forcing your way through narrow doorways and passages, which is of course the cyclone launcher. So I might go with that on one of my guys. I mean, you're going to get through a door with that on your back, aren't you? Yeah, that's not really a problem at all. Okay, I think we're ready. I think we're ready. These knives. Does he need a knife? He doesn't really need a knife. Does need a power fist though. So, which power fist shall we pick? I like the look of none of them. Gonna have to pick one, and I think we're gonna go with this one. Nearly ready to start the assembling. Pop those over there because don't need them anymore. So what have we got? We've got legs, we've got a back, we've got a front, we've got a head, an arm, a shoulder pad, another shoulder pad, bits of weapon, and another arm. Does a Terminator need anything else, ladies and gentlemen? They can make their own door, that is absolutely right. However, that does increase the danger somewhat. Okay, right. We are going to reach for our trusty... Oh, this is going to be fun. Moisturiser on my hands, so I don't want to be handling a knife with slippery hands. Okay, so we'll put that over there. And we will go hunting for bits of a sprue connection and just scrape that off and mould lines. Now many YouTubers will say, oh, you need to get yourself a craft knife that's got a dull blade on it. On every craft knife there is a sharp side and the back, which is not sharp. So you don't need a dull craft knife. You need the back of the craft knife you're using. Could that be one of the 5 mistakes? We don't know. I don't know. It could be. And it could be anything. There's not much that doesn't drive YouTubers crazy. Because they get an awful lot of hits and likes. Oh, this drives me crazy posts. So, it's actually their interest for things to drive them crazy, but not actually. Mold line on this one, which is another thing you need to go for. See down there, there's a mold line. Run the back of your blade over that, and it will smooth it out, and it won't be visible on the final miniature. Alright, that's done, that's done. I'll let you in a little secret. I'm not usually this anal about this. I'm okay with the odd mould line. I'm even okay with the odd sprue connection bit. If I miss it, I don't get upset about it. It's okay, get a bit of paint on it. Most people won't notice. And the people that do notice are not the sort of people you really ought to be courting. Unless you're going for a competition. If you're going for competition level, yeah, whatever. Carefully shave and dress your miniatures before you paint them, because that sort of thing will be picked up on. It'll also get picked up on the internet by people who want to tear down your painting, but don't listen to them. For those who might be watching this for the first time, I don't paint. Even though I do take pictures of my miniatures and post them on Instagram fairly regularly, I don't paint my miniatures for that purpose. I paint my miniatures to be viewed from about 3 or 4 feet away on a table. So if you look at a lot of the close-ups on my Instagram page, you will see that they don't look the best. But if you were to hold them at arm's length, they don't look the best either. But they look okay, and it is relatively, for the Futurex, relatively easy to achieve those sorts of that sort of finish on a miniature. Right, I have sprue goo. This is Tamiya extra thin cement with some sprue offcuts melted in it, and you end up with this sort of grey goo, which is useful as a glue and also for sealing bits of miniatures as well. So I'm going to start putting things together now. Maybe I didn't need the instructions after all. We'll see. Press that together. I found sprue goo forms a better bond as well. Fun and usage, not museums. Correct. Absolutely correct, Chris. Chris also has an Instagram presence. Is it Blue Bella Bramble or Bella Blue Bramble? Some blue. There's definitely blue and definitely a bramble and some Bella going on in the name. What is it, Chris? Let us know. And we will come and join and marvel at your stuff. I think it's Blue Bella Bramble. Have a quick look on the old Instagram. Blue Bella Bramble. There we go. All one word, Blue Bella Bramble. Go give her a follow. Paints miniatures and does artwork, pencil artwork as well, which is really cool. It's Garrison Kunst, he's arrived. How we doing? Finally started using my tips to buy paint so I can start painting again soon. Good stuff. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Get back on that horse. Right. Trying to position the miniature. The other thing I don't do is sub-assembly. I sometimes do sub-assembly if it's going to be particularly fiddly, but generally I don't bother. Which probably drives some YouTubers crazy. Some of them seem to want to make the hobby as complex and inaccessible to beginners as possible. I'm at the other end of that spectrum. I want to show how easy it can be, with minimum effort, to produce okay looking miniatures. Well, no, I didn't think this through. I'm going to have to prime this, aren't I? Huh. Okay, well that's never stopped me before. I just have to prime it on camera and turn the sound off. I saw a cat hair. Always cat hair, at least one, even if you don't own a cat. Okay, there we go. Stomach virus is not good. Not norovirus, I hope. because that can linger and stay around. It is norovirus season at the moment, I think. The NHS have been complaining about being overloaded, but then they are. Yep, okay, I fully admit that was a mistake. Put this in place and then put the shoulder on. Oh! Alright, okay, so your Instagram name is named after your cats. That's quite cool. Stay on that. Stay. This is irritating. They've taken a chunk out of the shoulder to save plastic. A minuscule, tiny little bit of plastic, but over the course of millions and millions of sprues, I suppose it does add up. But it does mean there's less of a contact area to actually take glue. And it's just on that surface where you need it as well. That doesn't look right to me. Does that look right to you guys? Looks like this arm is a little bit low, but it's definitely over the socket point, so I don't know. I've got a little bit of... Just stay put, honestly. Oh! So here's me hoping they bring out a new Deathwing kit. So they haven't shaved out a little bit of plastic just where you need the little bit of plastic to make things stick together. Oh! That'll do it. And if it doesn't, I'm quitting and taking up flower arranging. I don't care. Okay. Head in place. Head's another one where there's not quite enough plastic to make contact. Okay. Now, I'm sticking on this base here, which I did last week in fact. I'll do that probably. But I'm not going to paint him up on that. I'm going to get another base. And it doesn't even have to be a 40mm base, so I have to put them on a little base like that. I'm just Just going to get a little bit of super glue. Which of course has super glued itself shut, because that's what super glue does. Wait a minute. Let's do stupid before we try sensible. Nah, that's not it. Sensible it is. See a tiny spot of that. Put the lid back on. Don't close it all the way, otherwise it does that. Put it standing up somewhere. Do I want that one or do I want a slightly bigger base? Let's go with a slightly bigger base. Oops. Now why am I using super glue as opposed to sprue glue? Because sprue glue will actually weld that to the base and it'll be a lot more difficult to get off again. Super glue, whilst a firm bond, is brittle and will break. So I can then snap the miniature off the base once I've done painting them. Let's get that stuff out of the way. Put that over there. Don't need the sprue glue anymore, but what I do need is my airbrush booth, which is down here. Let's get him out of the way, and you can see my high-tech solution for an airbrush booth, which is a flattened Imperium box, which I open up to contain splatter, like so. What this doesn't do is get rid of vapor, but I don't usually, ignoring a video I did a while back where I was spraying, I think it was that around. I don't usually spray anything noxious around, and whilst it's not a particularly good idea to have anything that shouldn't be in your lungs, this is generally a lot safer. It doesn't throw up, the airbrush doesn't throw up much spray. Right, do I want that or do I want... No, I don't think I do want black primer in this instance. I think I want if I can find it. Forgive the rustling. I exist in a constant state of bedlam. And if ever I am looking for something, there is always something on top of it. Isn't that right? Somewhere I have, not that either. Not that either. Is that it? Nope. It's not that. Where did I put it? I don't know. Okay, it's wing it time. We are going to use, we'll use that, which is adjacent. That is olive flesh from Pericrol, which is fairly adjacent to Wraithbone, but goes through an airbrush better. Oops. See, I make all the mistakes, so you don't have to. A few drops of that in there, come on, a few drops. There we are. That'll do. I'll do. Oh, covered in stuff. Right, where is my airbrush flow improver? Did I put it back there somewhere? No. No, I did not. Well, what can I use instead of airbrush flow improver? Oh, I know. We'll use a little bit of. Is that water? Yes, that's water. Just a drop, maybe 2 drops. Oops. Maybe more than 2 drops. So now, paintbrush. Let's get that in there and mix it up a bit. That's the sort of consistency you want. I mean, there's no hard and fast rules to this. Generally, you want to be aiming for something that still looks like it's given a little bit of coverage, but has the consistency of maybe skimmed milk, they say. But you know, what's the consistency of skimmed milk? It's not an SSR unit, is it? This is not primer, this is just paint. What I was looking for is I do have some fairly Wraithbone adjacent proper primer, but this will do for now. Alright, so that's that done. I'm just going to pop a little bit of white ink in there. Come on. So we go for a little bit of zenithal. a little bit. So we get a paler shade. Maybe a whiter shade of pale, we just don't know. And once we have the whiter shade of pale, we can skip the light fandango. And turn cartwheels across the floor. More white in there, but never mind. It's okay, it's okay. Let's give that a rinse. There's another thing I should have done and didn't. I think we're probably up to 20 things I've done wrong so far. Well over the 5. The other thing I've lost is my... Ah, there it is. Oh, there we go. Some airbrush cleaner through it. Some water through it. I'm getting to the conclusion that airbrushes are a bit of a pain in the backside for painting individual miniatures. They're not so bad for painting squads and big miniatures. There we go. Get over there, get the ants. Right, there we go. Are you dry yet? Oh, I suspect you're not dry. There's a cat hair there. I can see a cat hair. Where are my tweezers? Oh, I'm hoping hell of finding my tweezers on this desk, I'll tell you that much. It's like Where's Wally with plastic and paint. Ah, it's a feature. Right. What am I going to do next? We need to shade. So we are going to grab our trusty and not quite so dusty Army Painter wet palette, which is wet and pallety. Going to grab a brush. Is that any good? Probably not. Nope, not like that one either. Just looked at that one. This is 0. No, that's dead as well. New brush time. It's a 000, that's too small. It's a 1, that'll do. Quick rinse to free up the bristles. That's a nice brush. Okay. So we need a little bit of our olive flesh. There we go. And that's sort of thinning itself with the water that's on the top of the wet palette that shouldn't be there, but you know, make it work for us. the other thing we will need is a little bit of sepia. Let's move the goblins, because under there is a bit of sepia wash. Now this is Vallejo, but something like well, you know, it's a cat's God-given right to put their hair on miniatures. How am I going to do the plasma? I think a traditional blue will do. I will try and get to that before close of play. It's not usually a good idea to put washes on wet palettes because they tend to go everywhere, but we're just going to use this to tint our olive flesh a little bit. This is probably a little bit darker than Seraphim Sepia. That's probably closer to Agrax, if I'm honest. So yeah, maybe a little bit of Agrax would do this. So we get a little bit of that. Stay there. Nope, stay. Stay. Okay, there we go. A little bit of Agrax. And a little bit of our bleach bone substitute. Mix that together so we get a darker tone. Okay, we don't need quite that much. There we go. I'm just going to get quiet, you. Right, that's the air compressor off. Let's paint into the recesses with our shade. You know what, I think that's a little bit too subtle. We're going to be here all day. So, what we're going to do, let's put that aside. Create a recycled wet palette, dry palette. We're going to reach for brown sauce because this will do the same job faster. Here we go. Oops. Right, it's a test this week. Who can tell me, or who can post in chat, the recipe for my brown sauce? I've told people enough times. See if you're actually listening. You weren't expecting a test, were you? No. It's a really nice multi-purpose all-over wash. Made from readily available Games Workshop paints. Nobody? Seriously? Oh, why do I bother? Why do I bother? Every last one of you watching at the moment, well, every last one of you posting in chats regularly should all know this off by heart. Listens many times. Right. Salastar, that means you've not ever actually had cause to make it, which saddens me deeply. I might need to come up with a new recipe anyway, because it was made with the old formula inks, and I think the new formula might not work quite the same way. I'll have to test that one out and get back to you. But yeah, okay, your mind has been elsewhere. I will forgive you, Chris, but only you. The recipe for this brown sauce, this wonderful stuff, is 2 parts Agrax, 2 parts Seraphim Sepia, 1 part Lamium Medium, and a little bit of Drakenhof Nightshade. Use your own recipe. Well, mine's better. Alright? You're just wrong. Well, Salastar, you're just going to have to watch it again, aren't you? This isn't the only ink I'm going to be, the only wash I'm going to be using on these guys. There's another thing that's been grinding my gears lately. People saying that using washes is a quote-unquote noob technique. Oh, just get over yourselves. Yes, there are better ways of shading. Yes, there are more realistic ways of shading. However, if you're painting something for a competition, a single miniature, by all means do not use a wash. If that is your thing, you can produce a better effect with another technique, I will freely admit that. However, if you're painting multiple miniatures for a table, using a wash does not make you a noob, it makes you sensible. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
What would one have to do for you to come up with a color scheme solely based on Citadel paints for a specific army and to showcase the how-to on stream?
Solely based on Citadel paints. Thank you, by the way, Monkey. That's very kind of you. Well, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. I don't know what army I'd do. I mean, I mostly use Citadel paints as it is. Or I use other paints that are colour matched to Citadel. I suppose the question would be, what would you want to see? Unique scheme for two. Ha 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 ha. I don't paint Terminators, but when I was messing around with one, and bear in mind I was only messing around with this, I was looking at oh, you're going to love this. I was looking at tree frogs and thinking, wouldn't it be cool? So there's your orange Ned. It looked pre-arranged, but this was literally just sat there, painted in tree frog style, which is eminently doable with Games Workshop products. And I've got other Nids lying around, so I'm quite happy to show you that one. That okay for you? I will do that at some point. Fiery Neds. Yeah, that could work as well. I can see them adapting to their environment. And because of that, I think you could probably get away with playing your custom scheme as any high fleet you want. Right, you notice I'm trying to avoid pooling here, so I'm taking my time and trying to do the wash neatly. If I wasn't taking my time, I'd probably be done with this step by now. Let's get some ink in behind his helmet there. I will be using some contrast paints here. I think it's fair to say I've worked contrast paints into my painting style now. I'm one with the contrast paints. I don't quote unquote need them, but they are such a convenience, I see no reason not to use them. And I don't listen to the people online who say that, oh, using contrast paints is a noob technique either. Between you, me and the wall, I suspect people are funny about contrast paints because it allows people who are not quite as far along their painting journey as others, shall we say, to produce miniatures which look more or less okay, with less effort than it has taken people who do not use contrast paints on point of principle. And that upsets them. Less effort and in less time. That's my theory anyway. Yeah, your miniature looks okay, but you didn't spend 12 hours doing it, so that's what they are. Sort of people that do non-metallic metal. And consider it to be required to be a good painter. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not. Again, if you've got the time and you're painting for a competition or a display piece, sure, using non-metallic metal. If you can control the angle of viewing, so sure, use non-metallic metal. But if you're painting for the battlefield, like I do, non-metallic metal is a waste of time. There we go. So that's dulled him down. This is where I reach for my trusty, ever trusty Garagax sewer. How very dare it? How very dare I what? Have I inadvertently insulted someone? Let's push that aside slightly. Just going over the bits that are going to be either dark or metal with Garagax sewer. I don't think you're being entirely honest there, Mr. Garrison Kunst. Yeah, yeah. I'm an equal opportunity discriminator. I will freely discriminate against those of higher ability who look down on others. Right. I think that weapon needs doing in Gargak's sewer now. Does anyone else have a soundtrack just playing in their head when they're painting? I mean, obviously it's a little bit hard for you guys to think of a soundtrack at the moment because you'll have music blaring at you from my stream. But I have the oddest tunes playing in my head when I'm painting. Right at the moment, it is The Sleep John B by the Beach Boys. And I have absolutely no idea why. But there's usually some song or other going on in my head at any time of day or night. Oh, that's a different song. I'll thin this down a bit so it goes a bit further. I should really be using a bigger brush and not putting contrast paint on a wet palette. This is one of those key mistakes which is driving me mad and would probably be driving pro YouTubers mad as well. The mistake I'm making at the moment is using a brush that's way too small for the task. should be using a 2, a 3 or even a 4, not a 1 for this. And I'm nearly done. That's a lot of wires there. Oh, I could get lost in them. Yeah. Okay, is there anything else I want painted this Garagax sewer? Yes, there is. I'm just going to go over the grill on the front of his helmet. And the sensor rig on the side of his armour there. There we go. And he's not done. Oh, God. Just spotted all this stuff. There we go. Now he's done. And up goes the cry that all painters fear. Ah, you've missed a bit. But I don't think I have. Yes, I have. Which 4 paints have you got, Chris? Right. I think. I'm just gonna get some of the highlights put back in with the original bleach bone alike. Oh, it's a quicker way of doing this. Gonna make use of army painter dry brush. That's a small one, so I'm going to get a bit of that off the wet palette. Normally I would use makeup brushes and they're perfectly fine, but I've decided to splash out some army painter dry brushes to see if they actually make a difference. And the jury's out. They certainly do what they're supposed to. They're reasonably priced, I suppose. I picked a set of 3. I picked a set of 2.5. Where did that go? Where did that go? Right. I don't know where that's gone. It's pinged off to the never. But there was one in between these 2 brushes sizes. And that was 15 quid for 3 brushes, which is kind of, I suppose, more than the £5 I would spend on about 10 makeup brushes. But they seem to get the job done maybe slightly better. So if you've got the budget, I'd almost recommend getting a set of these. All the Artis Opus ones from Element, because I'm sure they're much of a muchness, but they're much more expensive. But if you get Artis Opus products from my Element Games link, it helps the channel out more. Because I get a little bit of a kickback from all sales from Element that come through my link. Which gives me a little bit of encouragement to do what I do. I'm surprised my cat's got any hair left on him, you know. Seems to leave more of his hair elsewhere than on the cat. So it said dryad bark, mephiston red and corn red. Well, if you were to get yourself a blue of some sort, you could then mix whatever other colours you need. And a lot of people do that, and a lot of people swear by that. But again, if you're painting a single miniature for a display, that's fine. But mixing your own colours, unless you're going to mix up an entire tub of it or tube of it, mixing up your own colours for an army is a bad idea, because you're never going to get quite the same colour again when you come back to paint units later. So that's another thing that the YouTube pros encourage people to do, which isn't particularly helpful. Well, this is stuff. This is supposed to be stuff that I do wrong, not what YouTubers do wrong. But then I am a YouTuber, so meta. Moog perception. Nothing wrong with horde armies. Nothing wrong with horde armies at all. Except when you have horde armies which with reasonably complex paint jobs like this. Although it's not hugely complicated. You could do that with a bit of dry brushing. Contrast paints. I mean the markings would probably be the time sink, but then you don't need those on the miniature at all. So I'm surprised you haven't picked up any pink horrors, Chris. They seem to be right up your street. They just don't die. Just keep coming back. Well, they do die. They just split when they die. And they're even more fun in AOS because you don't need to roll to see whether they split. They just split. If you've taken that trait. Because I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I've not actually played them in 40k. I think Pink Horrors in 40k split on the roller with 3 on a d6 after dying. I seem to remember that being a thing. Ooh, you're going to have some more Dark Angels by the sound of it. I mean, the rumour is, I don't know how much faith to put in this rumour. The rumour is that the 10th Ed box set, which will be out in maybe June, is going to be Dark Angels versus Nids. So again, I don't know how much faith to put in that, but that is the pervading rumour. Right, so I'm just going over for a second pass on the upper areas of the armour, so as if it was a zenithal. Seem to have scraped a little bit of paint off there, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to be weathering this. Oh heavens, will I be weathering this? You'll remember I didn't actually put primer on this miniature, this is just paint onto plastic. So there will be a little bit of chipping. But I will be finishing it off with a varnish at the end. Yeah. Nice bone effect there, bone colour. What you need to do, Chris, is you need to keep practicing. That's what you need to do. And getting enjoyment from every single model you paint. And not comparing yourself to anyone else, just getting that little bit better. Compared to your last miniature, and maybe you'll see improvements, maybe you won't. I just paint another miniature. That's just keep painting another miniature. Best bit of advice I could possibly give on any particular miniature you want to show me is paint another one. And then paint another one. And that's how we improve. Yeah, monkey. Yeah. Trust me. If you're painting black, never start with black. Because it's much easier to start from mid-tone with your Corvus black and then shade than it is to build up from black. What I do need to put on that weapon before I do much else is, where is it? Now, I'm slowly coming over to Pro Acryl from Monument Hobbies because they're generally good paints, but if there is one Pro Acryl paint that you buy, make it the Bold Titanium White. This stuff is the business. I would show you with Games Workshop whites, but they're trash. That was the sound of my paint landing in my hallway. Nobody uses Games Workshop white. Not even the Games Workshop painters. I absolutely can, Sarcastic Monkey. You are absolutely right. You have come on leaps and bounds simply by painting and painting and painting. Maybe I didn't need to do this just now. need to do in a sec is dry brush over this with a metallic paint. This should really be the last thing I do, but it won't matter because the Monument paints, Monument Hobbies paints are quite thin. They stand a little bit of diluting, but honestly not that much. Monument aren't sponsoring me, by the way. I've had a couple of pots of Monument Hobbies paints kicking around for a while. I bought a transparent set a while back, and I've just pulled the trick because I wanted it. My promise for this year was to get better at doing flesh tones on miniatures, so I picked out a load of Monument Hobbies paints, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get better at flesh tones. And faces in general. Right, okay. Now we're going to reach for some more contrast paints. We're going to reach for Creed Camo. Yeah, let's go with Creed Camo. That's what I used on the other ones. Creed Camo, which is a nice deep green. And we are going to use that on the wings on this guy's chest. Gosh, time's flying again. I'll get as far as I can with this guy, and this might be another two-parter. So I'd rather show you everything I do than just get to the point where, you know, I'm just going, you do this, this, this and this, and then you paint the rest of the owl and everything's done. I don't think that really helps anyone. So I will start to finish this guy on my live streams. If it takes me a few, it takes me a few. Is there any other green to be used on this miniature? Yes, there is. Just a little bit of water mixed with the contrast paint there. Give it a bit more flow. Just going to catch the the wings on the guy's helmet. And there's the sword as well. That probably needs to be green. Do I want that in green? No, I think we'll do that red. For the red, we're going to use another contrast paint. This is where it's occasionally worth taking a little bit more care, and certainly I would normally take to get the symbols and everything neat. And this is where it does pay to have a smaller but not too small brush. Like a 1. Yeah. What's happened there? I don't know whether you can see, but I'm mostly using the side of my brush more than the tip. Which is weirdly what a lot of people when they're painting are actually doing. Well, when they're painting on camera, that's what they're actually doing, but the camera makes it look like they're using the tip. Generally, it's they're using a bit more of the brush than that. If you use the tip too often, see if I can find an example in my brush collection, because I'm sure I've got one or two. Yeah, that's starting to go. Can you see that? I don't know whether you can see that. It starts to hook over at the end. So draw your brush rather than sort of use it like a pen. I'm going to draw it like that. missed a spot. When did I miss a spot? Yeah, you're right, I did. But that was the bit I chipped off earlier. But it's fine, because I'm going to be weathering it later and using a lot of grey. So it'll look alright. Do not panic. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Made a little bit of a mistake there, so I'm just going to neaten that up by bringing in some of the cream coloured paint. Yeah. Right. Okay. So metals. Just going to get the metal done on this guy's plasma gun, and then I think we'll probably leave it, and we'll start with the actual plasma coils next week. Because that's a whole thing. The plasma coils. That is a whole thing. It looks got an Instagram and makes people go, wow. And I will freely admit it is not the easiest of techniques to get right, but you will get it right with practice. Again, paint another miniature, paint another miniature. I don't get this right because I don't do it enough, because most of my guys don't are, well, I'm mostly painting AOS these days and they don't have plasma weapons at all, but most of my armies, even before I started moving over to AOS, were fairly plasma light, so I didn't get an awful lot of practice with it. Alright, so this is my usual Viejo duraluminum. It's just on a dry brush, and I'm just going to take it over the weapon, which, if you recall, was base coated with Gargak sewer. Which is an amazing base coat for ferrous metals and coppers. So I'm not going for total coverage there. I'm just sort of brushing it over the top, picking out the edges. Dry brushing, basically. So I'm not worried about blocking in, as it were. I'm quite content for there to be some of the Garagak sewer showing through, because it adds depth. And Let's get it everywhere. I'll pick out the detail later. The guy on top there needs a bit of metallic as well, so we'll hit that up as well. I mean, we're a hair's breadth away from this actually being ready for the table, to be honest. I mean, all we really need to do... I'll still do the next bits on the live stream as well. But all we need to do is to elevate this to tabletop from where we are at the moment. Let's just pick out the eyes. Again, this is contrast paint. Terra's red. I think he'd almost be good enough to put on the table, but what else we're going to do, and this is a very good quick plasma. See you later, monkey. See you later, monkey. Thanks very much for the tip. You may miss the end of the stream, but you can watch it later. And you won't miss the end of this painting the model, because I'll be doing it in, next week, I think. Right, so this is Pilar Glacier. And this is a good way, on top of white, of getting a very quick plasma effect. Tuck that in one end, and the other end, leaving a bit in the middle. Leave the middle pure white. And that's fine, you know, for the tabletop, that's fine. But I'll do it properly next week. Because there is more to do to this miniature. There's an oil wash to go on, and some chipping, and extra grimdarking, and all sorts of stuff. But, you know, he'd do for now. You know, you could stick him on a scenic base and away you go. I wouldn't be ashamed to field that at all. So there we go. I shall see you folks next week then, I guess, for finishing this guy off to look a bit more sort of like that. I mean, side by side they're okay. But this guy's had an oil wash and this guy hasn't. Right. Thanks for dropping by, folks. I shall wish you all a very fond farewell until next week when we meet again. Be excellent to one another. Spread the hobby love. Be good to each other. Spread random acts of kindness. And just be a force for good and change in the world. See you later, folks. Ta-ta for now.